It's time for Inside the Gamecocks, the show with Phil Mullinax and J.C. Sherbert.
So, how many of you would say you speak English fairly well, but with some difficulty?
Fat, drunk, and stupid is no way to go through life, son.
You play to win the game.
Now, let's take it away, J.C. and Phil.
It is Inside. I'm J.C. Sherbert. He is Phil Mullinax. I am back.
Yep. Are you there?
Yeah, can you hear me now?
All right. Yeah, you came in real crunchy there at the beginning, but hey, welcome home.
Whatever the issue. It's the same mic I've been using, but so whatever issue we with StreamYard and this blue microphone that JB talked about, that's the fix. Sorry, had a little bump in the road. The good news is when I was in the hospital, they gave me something for the vertigo and it worked, and they prescribed me something else, and it did not as consistently as I would have liked. And so now I'm back. After going
actually,
I'm getting the right thing right there.
Let's boot you out right quick, JC, just because it's still coming in kind of crazy. But
okay,
try to click the link and come back in.
All right.
Yep. All right. We're going to get rid of JC for a second. Hopefully his mic will come back after we get a link sent back to him. But glad to have him back nonetheless. Happy to see all of y'all in here this morning as well. Spencer Rattler returns. Juice returns. Our cups runneth over, as I put in the show description today. So that's right. That's right. Yeah, the Phil Show. The Phil Show. It did happen. See, my dreams have come true.
How am I now?
Still a little bit crispy.
All right, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to unplug this mic.
All right. Unplug the mic. Plug it back in. Either that or could just try to use the one on the laptop. But either way, they are. Yes, I am very sinister. Board online, board offline. Speak sign language. I love it. We're going to turn it into a podcast. All these visual hand gestures are great. Come on in. Technical difficulties. Hey, yeah, we can hear you now. Yeah.
Okay, good. Yeah, I'm just using the mic on the webcam here, and that may be
that's all right.
Issue
yeah,
too,
let me see
if
I
can. As long as I'm
can.
coming in loud and clear.
I can make you louder.
All right, cool.
Yeah, there you are.
J.C. Sherbert, Phil Mullinax here, Inside the Gamecocks, the show. Sorry for the delay. Sorry for the abrupt absence, but I think I'm on the right track now. Medically, I don't understand why. If something worked in the hospital, they didn't prescribe that to me for, to get better at home. But apparently, that they didn't. But had to wait for my doctor to get back in town from Egypt and some other places, and thankfully that's done. So we're here on a Wednesday. Chris Phillips coming up, JB again in the third hour. Don't forget, I'll be on the Spurs Up show at 1:15 today to talk with Chris. But Phil, a big day yesterday for the University of South Carolina.
No doubt.
Some not so big surprises, or not so big surprise. I think once Juice Wells announced he was coming back, I felt really confident about Spencer Rattler returning to South Carolina. I'll tell you this right now. We talk about NIL a lot on this show and how Carolina's behind. Well, let's just say I think Carolina stepped up with these guys. And that's just kind of the way it's going to be in college sports from now on. But Spencer Rattler is coming back. I think that's huge. I think he returns as one of the top quarterbacks in the Southeastern Conference next year based on how he finished last year. If he can keep up his play. I mean, I don't know. I don't think it's realistic to say he's going to go 30 for 37 like he did against Tennessee every single game. But there was something different about his last three games, even with the tough second half against Notre Dame in the Gator Bowl. I thought he really settled in, took it to the next level, whatever you want to say. Obviously, the simplified offense helped. But I think anytime you get a quarterback like that comes back, expectations are going to be raised. Same with Juice Wells. With Juice Wells, I think maybe my opinion of him is a little bit higher than what the NFL draft people think right now. Of course, it's a pretty good year at wide receiver for the draft. But I think both those guys can play their way in the first round, Phil. I'm not predicting that necessarily. But I think coming back as far as their draft status is the right thing to do at this point. And frankly, I'm a little surprised about Juice not getting a higher grade, because I think if you wanted him to come back to South Carolina, that was probably the big concern is, man, he just may be too good.
Right.
He may be too good.
I wonder if that reflects any of the other receivers that are going into the draft this year, JC, and just maybe it's not necessarily him. It's just him as compared to, everyone else.
Well, that's a lot of it, Phil. I mean, it's that way in recruiting rankings too. I mean, there's some years where Justin Fields and Trevor Lawrence kind of went back and forth the year they were seniors as the number one player in the country. And there are some years where either one of those guys, where they had dropped into another class, they would have been easily number one, not just a quarterback, but overall player. So that kind of happens. That happens. I remember the year Leonard Fournette was a senior. That also had Nick Chubb, Joe Mixon, Royce Freeman, a lot of really good running backs. Sony Michel was in that class. So any one of those five guys would have been the number one running back recruit in that class, in another class. So, you kind of got to judge it by year and draft class and all that. And I think when you look at, Spencer Rattler and Juice Wells, next year probably sets up a little bit better as far as draft status goes. And Spencer's got, some performances to have, I think, just because it wasn't the best first 10 games for him at South Carolina this year. There were some good ones, but then there were some stinkers. But I don't know that was all his fault, obviously. So consistency in play is going to be a big key for him. And with Juice, it's just it's a matter of usage. Against Notre Dame, I was told he had a pretty tough rib injury, and if you ever crack your ribs, which I have. Woo, shoot, buddy. Yeah. That could slow you down a little bit. And that's what happened against Notre Dame. So I think both of those guys coming back is absolutely huge. And then in probably a much bigger surprise, right? The South Carolina men's basketball team goes on the road for the third time ever, wins at Kentucky.
It's Rocky 3. Yeah,
definitely.
You got the crap beat out of you by Clubber Lang.
And then you come back. I'm going to get up off the mat. Yo, Adrian, we're going to beat Kentucky. But certainly, happy for the guys on the team. Happy for G. Jackson after really an atrocious showing against Tennessee. And I'll say this about Rick Barnes and Tennessee, because we hadn't talked about it yet. When you have a team that's sort of inexperienced, that's really green like Carolina hasn't played together, they hit conference play, they're at home. Even when Tennessee does not have crazy good talent, which they do this year under Rick Barnes, they are tough as crap to play. And we've all watched Rick Barnes teams over the years, whether it was a fleeting glance when he was at Texas, or he was at Clemson, Providence, and now University of Tennessee. They're going to defend you, they're going to guard you, and they're going to do it all 40 minutes. I mean, you know about 40 minutes of hell. That's kind of what Tennessee is now. And so for a team like that, what South Carolina has, it's really easy to get blown out like that because you just straight up wilt under that pressure. And I think the Gamecocks obviously just had on top of having a terrible game, it was hard to handle hard to handle them on defense. Gamecocks just couldn't do anything. Well, Kentucky apparently does not want to play on either end of the court right now.
It's a bad two-game stretch for them. I'm glad we're a part of it.
I've never seen a Kentucky team because I was like, I didn't even turn the game on, Phil, because I had to adjust to the medication yesterday, and so I spent a lot of the day lounging and reading articles and napping and things like that. So I turn it on, and I hesitated because I knew what was going to happen. I was like, the minute I turn it on, Kentucky's going to go on like a 23-0 run, and going to come back and win. But it didn't happen. I'm glad I turned on the last 10 minutes. The Gamecocks were resilient. Lamont Paris, I thought, coached one of his best games. And now you look at it, and I think sometimes you can accept a losing season. I'm not saying they'll have a losing season or a winning season or whatever. I'm certainly not predicting a run to the tournament right now. But when you first your situation and you got some things to kind of build on, you want to, in other words, you want to take it when you can, right? And this team, obviously there's been some ugly losses. The East Carolina loss comes to mind in Greenville. My God. The 19-point loss to who? Furman in Charleston. All those games in Charleston were ugly. And those of you that are trying to follow along on Twitter, I know we're having some technical difficulties right now, but it's all good. JB just informed me of that. So, I know there's been some ugly losses, but, it's kind of nice to beat Clemson. And by the way, Clemson's become a pretty daggum good basketball team, right? And then anytime you compete in the Southeastern Conference in this sport and you can beat Kentucky at Rupp, you take it without question. It's special every time you went up there. I don't care who you are. If you play in the SEC, how your season's going, a win at Rupp Arena is extremely special. So hats off to Lamont Paris. Texas A&M comes to town next. I think maybe the hope is like a win like that. Maybe the crowd gets a little better because I think that interest in this team was quickly dissipating after the Tennessee game, and rightfully so. I mean, nobody wants to see their team get their butt kicked. But
no, and another blowout would have been probably the death knell.
Tough. But Big Kentucky is certainly something else. I've missed the Nana Sports chat box, the award-winning Nana Sports, by the way. Saunders says, morning, Jits. Jerry says, good morning. Love all the opening with the bagpipes. Austin's like, what's going on? The thing with the bagpipe music, man, we have to wait 30 days from when we first did it because YouTube keeps flagging it. I downloaded it from a duty-free free music. You can use this on your podcast website, and I keep telling them that. But apparently it's all automated. So,
oh yeah, I'm glad to know y'all heard it because I thought I made it to where you couldn't.
Yeah.
So okay, good. We can still hear it doing it that way. That's good to know. I'll fix it.
Tiffany's glad to see JC's back. I'm back glad too. So is Kreger. Jaffaler, is Kentucky firing Calipari? Well, I looked at that buyout, man, and even for big blue bourbon money up there, $48 million is the buyout. Who would they get? Who's Kentucky going to get that's better than John Calipari? I don't know.
I don't know.
I do think he loses games he shouldn't. If there's a bugaboo in his career, even going back to Memphis, when I thought Memphis played Kansas in the final. I thought Memphis had the better team by a good bit. And no dice. So they do lose that undefeated team that lost to Wisconsin in the Final Four. So I think if there's a bug of him, like unlike Rick Pitino, who would lose every now and again, Calipari does have a habit of like losing to teams that like St. Mary's or St. Peter's, the Peacocks last year. All that. Jared says, I don't believe Kentucky ever took the lead. Hopefully it's a confidence builder. Absolutely. Chuck says, morning all. Great day for the Gamecocks. Gamecock Nation. Sean's got a good question here. What's up with Xavier Hardy? Is he coming or do we pass? The grades or the arrest or both? I'm going to need to check on that because they keep getting asked about it. I know Tony said no on our message board, and I'll defer to him right now. But I need to double check on that because I think there could be some confusion with that kid. Tiffany's happy I'm back. Saunders said JC, a.k.a. Mr. Roboto. Yeah, was it coming through like, nah?
It was. Indeed.
Kreger says, need a Jeff Coat and Caldwell welcome home next. I think at least one of those two is a strong possibility.
And we do have an unannounced welcome home still from the other evening. Mm-hmm.
Exactly. I have an idea as to who that is. Adam says JC needs auto-tune. Happy says JC, your mic or earphones sucks. No offense intended. Yeah. The Phil Mullinax show. Here we go. I'm not using the Bluetooth version of the mic. I'm using USB on the mic. My headphones are Bluetooth, and the headphones have a mic in them, and because they're gaming headphones, and so I think maybe that may be the issue. So I don't know. Adam says that was epic, Harrison. Oh, the Wolf of Wall Street intro. I'm not leaving. I'm not leaving.
I'm not having even.
That's one of my favorite scenes in the history of cinema. You know what? I'm not leaving. I'm not leaving.
We were at my mom's house last night. Loved it. I was sitting there. The phone buzzed with a Twitter alert. I pulled it up. But Spencer Rattler with a video. I was like, "Oh, let's check this out."
Yeah. And it was
Wife
good.
and I are out there. Yes.
Juice's video was great too.
Yeah, I love the
pouring
juice
on the
video.
juice. The men's team is like a box of chocolates. You never know who you're going to get. Erding Irie says, a thing of beauty watching those threes rain down. Yeah. And I'm going to say this. This is probably a Captain Obvious statement. Hi-ho, I'm Captain Obvious. Yeah. Not the stupid Captain Obvious on, was it Travelocity commercials? That's terrible.
No,
I mean,
yeah.
Look, Captain
Trying
Obvious needs to be a little bit more, overstated than understated like they try to do it. But anyway, Captain Obvious. When Michi Johnson is on and playing well, this team can compete. When he's not, because Michi helps Gigi and helps the rest of the guys, and I think.
Yeah, if you just have one star, it's one-dimensional. It's too easy to, stop that.
Yeah. Any updates on Bennett potentially joining the team? Are we talking about Mazio Bennett? He's a 2024 kid. Or is there somebody else? Adam says, I think UK and Cal missed on some evaluations, but I also don't think UK is appealing as Kentucky, North Carolina, Duke, or Kansas. More parity in college basketball these days. Yeah, and in college basketball, too, in the tournament specifically, it's pretty much known older teams do better. And Kentucky is perpetually young, although they did have some returners this year. They may be like, and I've used this example before, Arkansas. Arkansas won it all, and then they got everybody back. That was kind of before the NBA. Everybody was going to the draft, right? So they had Corliss Williamson, I think Scotty Thurman. They piddled around all year and were like a 6 seed. Next thing you know, they're all the way in the finals playing UCLA. So that may be kind of like North Carolina last year was, an 8, 9 seed? But almost didn't get in.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, Jesse says Mazio. Sorry, I didn't realize he's 2024. Quantrell says Saul Mazio had a visit scheduled to FSU in the coming weeks. Great. Reason for concern. Last I checked, FSU, I don't know that he's up near the top of their board. I can't see that. I don't know that FSU needs to be this team South Carolina fears in recruiting. I think they have taken some guys from South Carolina out of the portal, but I don't think that they're poaching people or recruits. Now, recruiting against them down in Florida, it's going to be difficult because, Florida kids and all that. Jared said, would Kentucky hire Chris Beard, or is he off limits? I would think he would be off limits right now because of the domestic violence. Ed has a good question, too. Any chance Rattler's return helps us pick up a receiver via the portal? Possibly.
Yep. I saw Brad Crawford had a headline on one of his articles. I didn't get a chance to read it because I saw it right before the show, but that potentially there could be a couple names in the portal that pop up and would potentially head over this way.
Mm-hmm. So we'll see about that. I would think it's more likely than not that they'll get another receiver in the portal, and who knows.
And read into it what you will, but Nick Harbour commented on Spencer's video with the eyeball emojis, and all right, Nick, all right. We see you.
All right, so let's hit our first break. Chris is coming up in about 10 minutes. We'll be back with a short segment, then we'll get Chris here on the other side. Inside the Gamecocks, the show, the return of JC, Spencer Rattler, Juice Wells, and return of a Pulse with the Gamecock men's basketball team. We'll be back after this.
Golfers and wannabe golfers, former Gamecock golfer Meredith Taylor is now a full-time golf instructor in the Midlands of South Carolina. In-person golf lessons are held at the Country Club of Lexington, half-hour, hour, on course 9 or 18 holes. And if you're outside of South Carolina, Meredith conducts virtual lessons. Just send in your golf swing for analysis. Gift cards are available for in-person 1-hour lessons. Connect on Twitter at Mayor Taylor and find her online at McKellarEnterprises.org. Her email is on the website. Schedule your next lesson today with Meredith Taylor, former Gamecock golfer.
Gamecock Nation, do you need a place to stay for the big game? Many hotel booking engines keep all the commissions, but at Fan Plans, you support Inside the Gamecocks, still earn your hotel loyalty points, and you receive an email with direct confirmation from the hotel. Whether you are visiting Columbia to cheer on Carolina or hitting the road to follow the team, get in the stands with Fan Plans.
This is Coach O. Now back to the show. Go Tigers in the soul.
Welcome back to Inside the Gamecocks, the show, everybody. The show is presented to you by Express Sunrooms in Columbia. Give John Barber a call, 803-446-4662, to set up a no-obligation consultation to talk about a potential backyard retreat for your home, or potentially even enclosing a patio or a porch for you so that you can enjoy the summer sun. And the first hour of the show is brought to you by Cindy Searfalls and the Coldwell Banker Kane Realty team here in the Upstate. Cindy will be happy to help you out with all your upstate residential real estate needs. 864-414-5271.
All right. So thanks to both of our sponsors. Nana Sports chat box has a good question here from Seth. Phil, he says, JC, what side of the ball do they see Vakari Swain playing? Seems to be an edgy physical player. Paired with Torian Gray's coaching, he could be a lead option in the secondary. I think so. I mean, if you look at the class, so Judge Collier could potentially be like a bigger corner.
Yeah.
But the other two guys, I think, Kilgore and Sandy, are definitely safeties. I say definitely, but I mean, these guys will switch it up on you. You know, the secondary, I'm saying Gray and Clayton White will do that, and it ends up working out. You know, because I could have sworn with their issues at safety this year, Anthony Rose would have been back there, but no, starting at corner. So I think right, the staff sees Corey playing defense. That's their preference. If he wanted to have a chance on offense, I'm sure that they would let him. But man, I think I think you're right. A very fast, physical player from Carrollton, Georgia. I've always had a lot of respect for that program over in Carrollton. And the Gamecocks finally landed two guys from that part of Georgia, Swain and Villa Rica's own Jatavius Shivers. So that little part out I-20, that's Cedartown and stuff's out that way too. And that's where Nick Chubb came from. But Gamecocks hadn't had a whole lot of luck in that part of Georgia, but they did now, so that's good. Bruin Nation asked about Xavier Hardy. Let me check. I'll have an answer for you in 24 hours, and we can see that. Quantrell talks about Florida State here. He's like, if there's one team I want Carolina's guys to go to, it's FSU. That means the demise of that team in the Upstate.
It does not bode well for our friends up here that Florida State is back on the rise. And the other side of that Quantrell, I fully agree, is it also means that Florida is going to have to start competing harder for recruits locally, which is a good thing for us as well.
Yeah, I got that for sure. And so FSU being good in a weird way helps Carolina. So now South Carolina does not need to become the farm team for the Florida State Seminoles. No. Don't get me wrong, but nor should they. But them being down has helped Clemson and even programs like North Carolina tremendously. And Florida, for that matter. Sean says if we were to get Pringle, Watson, and Franks, it's Frank's take that all three project as OT. Yeah, you don't turn down guys that on the offensive line, even if they're slotted at different spots. I'm not so sure Blake Franks couldn't play guard. But all that said, Krager points out Carolina's probably not getting Franks. I think he's going to Clemson. I think South Carolina's giving some things to think about. But I still would lean toward Clemson because Clint points out he's not a lock. So there you go with that. So that's the deal there. So I don't think the Gamecocks are going to get Franks. I think Clemson's in good shape there. Now Pringle and Thompson, folks, it can be done and it can be done quickly. We could be sitting here in March, and South Carolina's got a top 5 recruiting class for 2024 with in-state kids, which is a great thing. Contrast, I know you call the Carolinas D-line heaven, but it seems like the Carolinas is having a decent run of quality O-linemen in the state. Yeah, South Carolina especially as a state. North Carolina's always had, they'll have a DJ Humphreys every now and then, or Xavier Nixon, over the years. Trying to remember North Carolina. Oh, Corey Robinson was a 2-star with 1 offer. He's from Havelock, North Carolina, and he started for the Gamecocks. But South Carolina really. And Quantrell, what's interesting is if you look back through all the players from South Carolina that signed with South Carolina, there's an interesting kind of abnormal looking trend where a lot of those kids ended up in the NFL, and it wasn't just your highly rated guys. Brandon Shell and AJ Cann obviously ended up in the NFL, but TJ Johnson ended up in the NFL. A lot of hits from the state on the offensive line over the years, and so that's the deal there. One more question. Krager says, who gave the most to Rattler and Juice NIL deals? Wasn't Carolina Rice. But Boogie Huntley, Tyshawn Wanamaker, and Jalen Nichols all got deals for Carolina Rise. This is the last time we talked. Jalen. Chris Payne points out, and that's true. I don't know how this slipped my mind. Eric Douglas, Jalen Nichols, John Gwynn, all from Charlotte, North Carolina, on the O-line for the Gamecocks. WJM4 says any word of Terrell Dawkins is coming back next season. That last I heard he was. He's got to improve, and he's got to get healthy, though. So there's that. All right, Chris Phillips, high energy. He's on Wednesday this week because he's got something to do tomorrow, and I'm on there on Wednesday this week. So we always let a little trade off, and Chris will join us after these messages right here on the show. Hey, man, are you sick and tired of your business computer guy?
Yes, he takes forever to call me back and doesn't always respond to the requests.
Yeah, same here. I'm paying him good money. I constantly have issues, and I'm worried he's not backing up my network and securing it properly.
You know what, Phil? Let's ask Stone Blanton.
Hey, JC and Phil, if you want a solution to your IT problems, give Heritage Digital a call. Our boy Matt Odom has a low-cost, one-price solution that will get you running right. Call 843-699-1001 or heritagedigital.com and ask for Matt. He will hook you up today and tell them Stone sent you.
If you're looking to sell or buy multifamily property right here in South Carolina, the Burgesson team of RE/MAX at the Lake can help you get to closing fast and easy. Adam and Derek Burgesson both are very proud Gamecocks and are more than happy to assist you with any of your commercial real estate needs all across the state. You can email Adam at aburgesson@remax.net. That's ABERGESON at remax.net to get your next deal underway. The Burgesson team, proud sponsors of Inside the Gamecocks.
Family vacations, a new car, a new boat, all cost money, but you don't necessarily have to make more to afford any of that if you can save cash that's flying out the window now. iHelp Consulting can help you finally get the kids to Disney World, upgrade the minivan, or drop that new boat in the water next summer. Let Daniel and iHelp Consulting consult with you. No fees, just savings. You pay them a percentage of those savings. Save on essential services, credit card fees, you name it, let them find it. These folks are incredible. iHelpConsulting.com. How can I help you?
This is freshman All-American Nikki Memorial of the Carolina Gamecocks, and you're listening to The Show with JC and Phil.
Welcome back to Inside the Gamecocks, the show, everybody. Presented to you by Express Sunrooms in Columbia. Give John Barber a call or shoot him an email, 803-446-4662, or is John B, isn't it? John B at expresssunrooms.com.
John B.
John B. And of course, don't forget Cindy Searfoss sponsors the first hour of the show. Give Cindy and the Coldwell Banker Kane Realty team here in the upstate a call, 864-414-5271. We beat Chris Phillips by just a minute, but he is in here now. I'm going to bring him in, and we will say good morning, Chris, joining us on the McKellar Enterprises guest line. How you doing, sir?
What's up, boys? I'm doing about as well as somebody can be, man. The sun's shining a little bit brighter today after it's been a crazy last 24, 48, 72 hours this entire week, right, with all the big news and an improbable win on the hardwood, man, and also enjoying the beautiful weather in Hilton Head Island, South Carolina. So it's I've had worse weeks, guys. I'll tell you, I've had worse weeks.
certainly worse places to be than Hilton Head.
Right.
I was like thankful. I said like a prayer of thanks today because it got above 40 this morning where I'm at.
Yeah, it's like 65 here, and we're doing we're doing the live show from the Cigar Lounge, and what a great day to do it. We'll be smoking on the Cat Pack, the Kentucky's a Basketball School Pack, the Clem Sucks in Tennessee, your daddy's backpack. We got all kinds of reasons to celebrate today, guys. So
absolutely. We'll get to the top news. First, Juice Wells in a very interesting video. Like, I don't know what kind of juice that was they were pouring in at the end, but it was a little rich, but maybe like some V8 or something. I don't know. But certainly, I mean, Chris, me and you have talked like this whole year, and I've been on his bandwagon for a long time, and I know you have too. But what a playmaker and what a valuable member of the team to be returning next year.
Yeah, I was gonna say, JC, I feel like you were his biggest fan and supporter, and we were talking about during the middle of the season when the offense was anemic, right? Who's not getting the ball that should be? I know you were screaming Juice Wells, and I mean, he made you look like a genius the last couple of weeks with the way he played. But yeah, and there was a lot of excitement last year. It's crazy. A couple of days ago, I think it was like a year ago to the date I saw the video I posted the day he committed, and we all had high hopes and expectations. But you just sort of wondered, right? The transition from James Madison to the SEC, right? Would there be a learning curve or what have you? But I mean, the dude's a stud, right? He's an athlete. He makes plays. He makes big plays. He gets separation. He gets open downfield. He's a good route runner. He's everything you want in a wide receiver, So I'm excited for both he and Spencer Rattler to come back and put a full season together. I think there's no doubt in anybody's mind that Juice Wells could be a 1,000-yard receiver easily, could be a guy that's taken in the first couple rounds of the NFL draft. And, what you hope is for he and Spencer, obviously, but for Juice, that those last couple of games was just a glimpse of what he's really capable of, right? So getting him back's huge. Obviously, I think we all agree the wide receiver room, you still probably need to bolster it through the transfer portal. And you got some young guys you're excited about, but Juice Wells was your number one. It's not even close. So he's going to be the go-to guy week in, week out. And ecstatic to have him back. And, guys, with another good year, he could solidify himself as one of the best wide receivers in school history in a program that South Carolina that's produced so many great pass catchers over the years.
Absolutely. And I think he absolutely, if he continues to play like he did down the stretch. And I mean, I know the stats against Notre Dame weren't great, but I mean, the guy did crack a couple of ribs from what I've heard when he got shaken up. And that's hard. That's hard. I mean, that's a painful injury, but I think he's well on his way to at least being a guy like a Pharaoh Cooper, where you look back and say, man, what a heck of a 2 years or whatever with him. So the big, Juice obviously was big, but and I think once Juice happened, the writing was sort of on the wall. Spencer Rattler coming back now. Had you asked me, would this happen at the beginning of the year? I'd say, well, I'd hope not, because that meant, you hope he just goes out and is one and done and has a great year. But, I don't necessarily look back at the totality of this past season and say Spencer Rattler was a failure. He just kind of saved his best for last. The body of work probably wasn't enough to play him above a 4th-round pick. He brought a lot of NIL deals to the table already. So Spencer Rattler Inc. is thriving, right? So why not come back? And then I got announced last night. I think Phil or somebody told me it was 8:03 when he announced. 803. That's the area code, man. You know, I was like,
put on for the 803. Yeah.
Oh, that makes sense. That would be right about the right time. Yep. Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
I thought it was
released
interesting. He announced like in the midst of the basketball game. I was like, this is interesting timing, but whatever.
Well, they're probably like nobody's gonna be watching that by the second half anyway. Well.
Yeah, little did we know. No, I mean it's huge, man. I mean, obviously, and I think when you look, I was right there with you, JC. It's interesting when we talked about, because every single year in the preseason I do position unit previews, and so we break down every position unit and what would spell a successful year for the quarterbacks. And I just simply said, Spencer Rattler being a one and done and becoming the first quarterback drafted for South Carolina since spring of 1990 when Todd Ellis was selected way back when. So, but when you look at the way, the season played out, and like you said, saved his best for last, and I think Spencer Rattler also just has a lot to prove. You know what I mean? He's not a 5th round guy. He's not a 6th round guy, right? We're talking about a guy that was once thought of as maybe he could be the number 1 overall pick, a no-brainer first rounder. And I'm sure he still believes that he's capable of that. I'm sure he still believes he's at minimum capable of being a 1st or 2nd round guy. And, I think too, let's not forget Dowell Loggins and the factor that I'm sure he had in the sense of, he talked about it when he got hired, but a guy who spent, a decade in the NFL. I think he probably provided some great perspective to Spencer Rattler on, hey, this is what the life of a rookie quarterback's like. This is what the life is like as a guy that's going to be drafted where you are. And here's the successes that can come of it. But here's the harsh realities, right, of what you'll be going up against. And when you factor in also, guys, the game changer of NIL, I know we gripe and we complain and we see some of our guys that have left for maybe some bigger bags or bigger NIL deals. This is a situation and scenario where NIL plays out really well for you, right? Because a guy like Spencer Rattler, maybe before NIL exists, hey, it's not even a thought to come back to school, right? He's going to go on and choose the NFL side. But to get him back, guys, is huge. JC, you and I talked about it. It's the difference between South Carolina being a fringe bowl team, 6 or 7 maybe win team, and now all of a sudden, are the Gamecocks a dark horse to win the SEC East? I think they're certainly a dark horse to win 10 games, 9 or 10 games. I mean, it's possible. There's a potential, right? I mean, off of what we saw those final 2 games of the regular season. So, I think there's bigger and better ahead for Spencer Rattler. I understand his inconsistencies in the 2022 season. Let's not forget. But I think when you couple Spencer's return, Juice's return, and the addition of Dowell Loggins, if they can stick to what they talked about in his press conference of letting Spencer play free, play loose, let his skill set take over, let his talent shine, I think there's a lot of reasons to be optimistic going into another year of Spencer Rattler under center.
Oh, yeah, for
Absolutely.
sure. Yeah. Well, I was going to say, too, I think, you hit on it with Dowell Loggins a little bit, Chris, but I think beyond just, offering him, a peek behind the veil as to what life would be like in the NFL for a rookie quarterback, it also, I don't think it can be overstated that now Spencer actually has a direct connection to, sitting offensive coordinators, sitting quarterback coaches in the NFL that they can actually evaluate him and develop relationships with him as he moves forward. And to what we hope potentially will be the number 1 draft pick, because that means everybody's doing well.
Yeah, if he's a first rounder, we had a pretty damn good year, boys. I would say
no
that.
doubt.
So, I'm excited. I mean, he's got a long way to go in his game, right? Again, he was far from perfect in 2022. I know we all blame Marcus Satterfield. And I think a lot of the issues were that. I think Spencer Rattler, he didn't have much of a chance early on, right? When he looked just as confused as he did, and the guy that was moving half speed because he didn't know what was going on. So, but he's got a lot to prove. You know what I mean? He's still got a lot of doubters, and that's reflected by people saying, hey, you're a 6th round draft pick. So, I'm excited for him to come back with sort of a chip on his shoulder, and he and Juice both will be playing for draft position, and you're going to have a lot of other guys around them that should feed off that and feast off that. And I wonder now, guys, what is the ripple effect maybe in the transfer portal? Do we see some big-time wide receivers or big-time playmakers out there that say, hey, I want to go play with Spencer Rattler. I know what he's capable of. So it'll be interesting to see.
That's I wouldn't be surprised if you see some more additions out of the portal. And there were a lot of folks were kind of waiting on this, right? And so we'll see what happens moving forward. And because I'm saying this day on 107.5 with Gunner, I was like, as much attention as play calling and type of offense and scheme, that stuff's fun to talk about, right? When you're talking about Dowell Loggins, everybody's freaked out. It's going to be the same thing, whatever. I think what got lost in that hire a little bit, and I was probably guilty of it as well, was the actual position coach, the quarterback coaching aspect of it, because he's also the quarterback's coach. And, you run what you run. And I've heard and feel and believe it's going to be a lot different and going to resemble more of a modern college attack. But that coaching, because you bring in, let's say you did hire Kendall Briles. Okay, Kendall Briles never coached in the pros. It's 100% a college deal, college system. Is that a carrot to bring Spencer Rattler back or not? And I think Shane Beamer probably, when he went looking for it, had that in mind. Like, okay, so we want Spencer to come back. We like Dowell Loggins anyway. Here's a guy that can help him, and we hold true to what we told him. We're not just throwing out the whole pro style thing or the pro plan for him. But we're also going to get a more competent offense in here. And I think that's probably what I and others missed about that hire is the position coaching.
Yeah, I mean, it's I thought Brad Crawford, our good buddy, put it beautifully that Spencer Rattler was, we talk about recruiting and the transfer portal. And I mean, Spencer Rattler was the biggest get of this signing class, quote unquote. He was the guy you had to bring back, right? So, whatever you had to do to get him, and that's not to say you were going to go hire an offensive coordinator just solely to bring Rattler back, because your OC is a long-term investment versus we know that Spencer Rattler's only going to be here for one more year. But it's a perfect marriage, right? I guess it works out pretty well. And, I think that what we all want to believe is that Shane Beamer learned from the mistakes of the past that maybe happened. Again, he's a rookie head coach in his own right? He's learning on the job. He's learning on the go. I talked about that when he was hired, that we're going to have to live with some of the growing pains that come with being a first-time head coach. And there's probably some things that, and you hope that 5, 6, 7 years from now, Shane Beamer's going to look back and say, man, that was such a learning experience. I wouldn't do it that way. I do it this way now. And so that's the hope and the expectation is that on the offensive side with the offensive coordinator, right, they're going to make that adjustment. I don't think it's rocket science on what they need to do in regards to simplify and spread it out and just let Rattler go play. So, again, if they stick to everything they said in that press conference when Loggins was hired, I think we're in good shape. And I have no reason to believe that they won't do that. But, yeah, I mean, again, I'm just so excited to watch 7. It's those last 2 games of the season just really gave us a glimpse into what he's capable of. And I can't wait. I mean, if he can put that together for 12 games, 12 regular season games, it's going to be a fun year.
No Absolutely. And you mentioned the learning curve. I mean, Kirby Smart won his 2nd straight national title Monday night. He's been there since 2016. Kirby lost to Vanderbilt at home his first season. Had some stinkers in some games, struggled a little bit. And then even in 2019, his 4th year, he had James Coley out there dialing up plays, lost at home to the Gamecocks. Because of it, it was kind of some trial and error for him too. And now look, and he was a rookie head coach. I think there's always going to be a learning curve. Not everybody's Bob Stoops that comes in and wins the national championship in his 2nd year at Oklahoma, when you do that. So I think you make an excellent point with that regard. All right, so the Gamecocks winning at Kentucky last night, Chris, taking nothing away, no disrespect to the Gamecocks or anything like that. Kentucky's out of whack right now, but I think when you still have to go compete. And I think South Carolina last night not only outplayed them, they out-hustled them and out-competed at Rupp Arena. I think when you play basketball in this league, in the SEC, any win at Rupp is sweet. No matter how you get it.
I mean, dude, what a job by Lamont Paris to rally the troops right after most of us wrote him off to be dead for probably the rest of the season. I mean, I was talking, could you go winless in SEC play? And I didn't think that was going to happen, but I certainly didn't see the first SEC win of the season coming at Rupp. I don't care what kind of shape Kentucky's in. It's still Kentucky basketball, and they've still got elite players all over the floor. So all credit goes to that coaching staff, Lamont Paris, for having the guys attack that thing the right way. Michi Johnson, unreal, dude. He's just – his range is in the gym. If he's in the gym, he can make it. G.G. Jackson, I thought, was fantastic, after getting shut out against Tennessee. And, he was great on the road for a youngster. And then you've got those other complimentary pieces and like a Hayden Brown that played some big minutes, Jacoby Wright that played some big minutes. But Kentucky's obviously out of sorts, and it's funny you say no disrespect, but immediately after the game, they go to the post game. They're like, "What's wrong with Kentucky?" Like that was the whole conversation. It wasn't anything about South Carolina. It's just what's wrong with Kentucky. And fair enough, right? It's Kentucky basketball. They're a huge brand, and Calipari might be on the way out of there, but who gives a damn, right? We took advantage. South Carolina did what they had to do. Kentucky knew it was a must-win for them. They obviously knew they couldn't lose the Gamecocks, and you go in there as a 19.5-point underdog and win straight up. And I think, I hate to say this, but I feel like we were all kind of waiting on, okay, when's the 15-0 Kentucky run coming, and this dream is going to get put to bed. And it never happened. I mean, it was just a gritty win, man. And again, you can't say enough good things. And we all obviously understood coming into this year what it was for Lamont Paris, a building year, truly the definition of a rebuild year. You could almost label this as year zero, in my opinion. But to pull it out in Rupp and get your first SEC win there. Now you come home. You got a 3-game home stretch that starts Saturday night against Texas A&M, and all of a sudden now Gamecock Nation has more of a reason to tune in and say, okay, let me see what this basketball team, let me see what Lamont Paris is all about, right? Because I think that's what he's fighting in year one, is just keeping people interested. It's one thing to lose and have a tough year, but how you do it, how you win and lose, being gritty, being competitive. It takes no talent to hustle, right? And that team gave great effort last night, and I was happy to see them bounce back the right way. And I mean, getting the dub was just extra sweet. Only the third time the Gamecocks have ever won at Rupp Arena, so it's a rare occurrence. And what a night it was for sure.
Yeah, Darren Horn had one of those wins. He beat Billy Gillespie.
Yeah, the Devin Downey game. I recall that one.
Yeah, that was but the previous one was in '97. Carolina actually won the SEC. So on senior day at Rupp, BJ Mackey, loving wild. I was talking today. It was 26 years ago. I'm like, man, good Lord, I'm getting old.
Time flies.
But it's kind of crazy. So, in your opinion, Chris, wrapping up with Chris Phillips from the Spurs Up Show, don't forget at 1:15 I'll be on with him. Portal not closed yet. What ideally for you? Where do you think the Gamecocks' needs are? As far as getting a guy or two to kind of round this thing out and get really ready for next season.
Well, I'll say this first, and I'm so happy we have a head football coach who is willing to and has shown he's going to attack portal. Right there are some coaches out there, not to point the finger at God's NIL or anything, but there's some coaches out there that maybe they frown upon the portal and this, that, whatever. And meanwhile, we got a head football coach that's committed to attacking it. So I'm glad we're on this side of things. But I think wide receiver. Obviously, if you can add a big time offensive playmaker, I think you do it. I don't care if it's a running back, if it's a receiver. I think we're pretty set at tight end, guys. I don't know about what y'all think, but I think we're pretty good off in tight end. But wide receiver or running back would be huge. On the defensive side, obviously, I thought the pickup of Jerron Willis, the Ole Miss transfer linebacker, was huge. Right, that's a position of need, if you will, and you're trying to bolster that. In the secondary, right, it's going to be a bit of a retooled secondary. You've got some youngsters you feel good about, but if you can add a quality player or two there, I think it'd be big. But, and then offensive line, we need to continue to build depth there. But I'm confident whoever Shane Beamer wants to add. I mean, I'm just happy the fact he's going to attack the portal. He's going to address our needs. But, if you can go get a big wide receiver, I think to complement Juice Wells, and it's not a slight at Xavier Legette or Dak Joyner or Amarian Brown or Omega Blake or Landon Sampson or any of these guys on the roster. But if you can go get like a proven big-time legitimate dude to be sort of that 1B to his 1A, I think that would be really beneficial for the Gamecocks. And, of course, Spencer Rattler and, could lead to big things. So I'm excited to see who they add. I certainly don't think they're done yet. I'll put it that way.
Yeah, I don't think so. I think on defense, too, there's a good chance we'll see an addition at edge or /D end.
Does it rhyme with Najon Nefcoat? Is that possible?
I don't know. I've been out for 5 days, Chris. Don't ask me to rhyme now.
Yeah, we don't know anything.
I was curious. Yeah.
My rhyme skills are like rusty. No. I mean, obviously he's in the portal and is an Irmo kid and a lifelong Gamecock fan. So you connect the dots. I'd probably be surprised if he wasn't coming back home to play. And he's more, he's got more production than in his career than Jordan Birch did. So,
well, I was going to
we'll
say
see.
some others, but since we dropped the name,
Certain others, yeah. I mean, yeah.
certain others.
Now, will that be the case at the end of next year? Is my question. I mean, I certainly believe Birch has a ton of upside still, but man, if you can replace a guy that hadn't really done it consistently with a guy that has for 3 years in the SEC, I think that's a win, right? That's a win.
I would say so. I would say so.
Yeah. So, all right, Chris. Well, we will. I'll holler at you here in a little bit. And we always appreciate you being on, and hopefully back to regular schedule next week, and we'll go from there.
Absolutely, guys. It's always a pleasure. I appreciate it. JC, looking forward to chatting with you at 1:15. Phil, you take care, man. Appreciate you.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, man.
Enjoy
Thanks,
Hilton
Chris.
Head, man. See you. Chris Phillips, Spurs Up Show. Always. Well, this Cartwright has a good idea. I'll have to check to see if this is a possibility. The running back Cavassier Smoke at Kentucky. Has he ended up anywhere?
I haven't heard anything yet. I have not.
No, I haven't talked to anybody at Carolina about him because I just kind of assumed, it's kind of crazy. But we'll see. That's a good idea, Cartwright. Jason says, Darla Moore, I don't think was the NIL benefactor.
I'd be surprised.
Historically, Darla hasn't really. I think maybe it gives the Gamecock Club a little bit, but I don't think she's foot the bill for athletics. It'd have been like Dodie Anderson and some folks like that, but the late Dodie Anderson. But it'd be kind of funny if that happened. I think the new president needs to fix that relationship, though, just for the sake of the university, right? Because it was just really unfortunate how things went downhill. Sean has a question about NIL. Says, can you give NIL deals to incoming recruits that are already committed or signed, like Pup, who is enrolled? Enrolled, yes, as long as they're enrolled. Vakari Swain, no, he's not enrolled. So you're not allowed to do that. Judah says JC and Phil don't know what smoking on a pack is. Phil?
Oh, Chris Phillips and his packs of cigars is what they are. Yeah.
Yeah. Krager said he heard a blue-breasted whippoorwill behind Chris. Bird. Chuck says, can we sign that seagull to an NIL? Lance Player said, what up, C Philly? What a night to have a night last night. That's right, Lance Player.
No doubt, man. No doubt.
It says, Phil Hill, I'm happy again. The cold Dowell Loggins went down smooth last night.
That's right. The happy logins last night.
Yeah. JB says this team has no business beating Kentucky, no matter how trash Kentucky is right now. I agree, and I think take it.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
You take it.
Hey, I'm happy to be 0-2 on game predictions with what happened last night.
Absolutely. Happy Baby says Darla Moore's done tremendous things for UFC. Nikki Haley sucks. It's hard to look at that situation, and no matter where you're at politically, because I think politics have been a problem at the University of South Carolina. I think people need to realize universities have since the 1960s and maybe before that have been liberally minded places, and they're always going to be. I mean, we've been through how many decades of that? So trying to force like some change or put somebody on the board that's, less, more conservative or something like, or hiring a school president that doesn't work to change anything. You're just going to get a lot of backlash. You have to understand kind of where you're working. And so I did think that was unfortunate no matter where you're at politically because, hey, Darla Moore may be on the other side of the aisle, but she helps the University of South Carolina. And you're not going to change anybody's mind. How many people in college were quite a bit more liberal than they are now? Because you got to go do something like pay taxes, right? Then you're like, wait a minute. Hold on. I'm not as idealistic as I once was. But all that good stuff. So that's my thing about how unfortunate that is. And I'm not trying to, go after Nikki Haley politically or anything like that. But I thought that was an unfortunate situation. And petty, to be honest. VJ says, what's up, guys? JC, glad to see you back and saucy. Joey G's Rattler's back, clowns. And all that good stuff. Justin says, if you have any kind of streak, you better watch out, Gamecocks. Kaki Gaming, morning, afternoon, gentlemen. We finally got some good news in all this mess lately. Yeah, and look, I started thinking about it, and hey, Marshawn Lloyd wants to go take his chances at Southern Cal. That's more power to him, right? Not going to hurt the Gamecocks. You kind of wonder too, because I'm sure Lincoln Riley and Shane Beamer had a conversation about it. Coaches do that all the time. So, that kind of thing. And Jaheim Bell probably was going to leave anyway. But you got 2 out of 4, probably the 2 out of the 4 you really needed, because I do think you can replace the production at running back with Bell and Lloyd, and the production tied in. I think they've already pretty much done that with the kid from Western Kentucky, and then the kid from Arkansas, Trey Knox, and then the kid from Florida has played at least at this level. So that tight end room's kind of flipped. Masaka is already enrolled too, Reed Masaka. So, and he was a guy that had a lot of big time offers. So and physically, I think would be ready to come in and play.
Yeah, not to mention a potential recruit as well, who also could probably come in and put a few snaps in.
Oh, just a few. People are like, what position would he play? I'm like, touchdown.
Yeah, right.
Because he gets behind your defense. It's a touchdown. Quantrell asks you, they going to get the back from Utah? That would be Micah Bernard. South Carolina's a little concerned about his injury situation, so I was told it was a no over the weekend, and Hale McGranahan reported that as well on the Big Spur. You got to stay durable, running back, right? And then some ask, did they not know that before they bring you in? Well, you don't. Sometimes when you have concerns like that, the idea is to bring them in. You can get a closer, quote-unquote, look at them, and make a call on that. Joey Sock says, fans were shot leaving the game. I had a big smile walking out with my Gamecock hat on. My buddy I went with, UK fan, was not happy. Were you in the student section or near there? Because I looked at the Kentucky student section last night on TV, and I was like, well, there's a dang lone Gamecock sitting in there cheering his ass off. And I'm like, that's awesome. At Rupp. At 0-2 in the SEC after getting beat 85-42, I was like, that's a daggum fan there.
Still showing up, right?
So, Joey says, guy got kicked out for having a sign that says, please go to Texas. Not a good look.
Nope.
VJ says, what's the probability Mario Anderson has more yards from scrimmage than Marshawn Lloyd next year versus this year? If Mario Anderson can stay healthy and he adjusts to this level quickly, and I have no reason to believe he can't, because you kind of look at the way he runs. He's powerful, good vision, quick feet. He should have gone out of high school probably to a place like Coastal Carolina or East Carolina, but academically and things, it didn't work out. That's the deal there. Stacy says, what defensive end combo is better, Birch and Edmond or Jeff Coat and Strong? I think I'm going to go with, if you're talking about proven players, Jeff Coat and Strong. But I'll caution and say this. I mean, there's some debate there, obviously, but I always thought Jordan Strong was a very productive pass rusher. He needs to get better against the run. I thought earlier this year he did. Rick asked JC, why didn't USC go after Jalen Lane? They liked him. They were interested, but they got some guys a little higher on their board, so there's some good news, Rick. I'd have loved to have seen him sign Jalen Lane because I'm friends with his dad. His dad threw me my only touchdown of my football career on 98 bootleg pass at the reservation in Gaffney at middle school. There we go, Brian Lane, the new coach at Catfish. That's his nickname, Coach Catfish. But he just got the West Side job in Anderson, by the way, which I think is awesome.
Nice.
Happy Abby says, unless the Gamecocks are able to pick up a lot for the portal, I could see a ton of freshmen playing next year. Just kind of depends on what position you're talking about. You know, you see the line. Now, I'll say this, the two ends, Rames and Umeozulu, they're in early, and they're expected to play. And then there'll be some redshirt freshmen. I think, especially in the secondary, guys like Keenan Nelson and guys like that I think will play back.
Yeah.
Lance
Let's
says
hit the break, JC, because it's right at noon. And we got Jamie's in the waiting room.
JB's in the waiting room. All right. Rick says 95 pounds grads. Yes, sir. And Lance says any running backs on our radar. I got to check on that and hope Trey John comes home. He's that dude. All right. Break, and then JB on the other side. Good to be back in the saddle on Wednesday inside the Gamecocks, the show after this.
Just as your State Farm agent combines good neighbor service with surprisingly great rates, you can combine your home, auto, life, or small business insurance with Tony Pope State Farm Insurance today. And guess what you'll get? That's right, even more good neighbor service with surprisingly great rates. In fact, Tony Pope State Farm is your go-to agent anywhere in South Carolina, North Carolina, or Georgia for the service you deserve at the price you want. So try combining your home, life, auto, and or small business insurance today. Tony Pope State Farm has been in business for more than 30 years and can handle anything you need in the tri-state area. Once again, Tony Pope State Farm will help you mix and match perfectly. Call 843-851-2222 or visit TonyPope.com today. Like a good neighbor, State Farm is there.
Whoop, whoop, easy. He's got a tiger by the tail, he has.
He better hang on too.
People have spoken. Nana's Porch was voted the third best food truck or trailer by the Charlotte newspaper Public Poll. Also, their pimento cheese took third in a contest exclusively for products made in the state of North Carolina. I will let Noah Hall tell you about the rest. Nana's Porch, Southern cuisine with an uptown twist. If you're in the upstate of South Carolina and are in need of residential real estate services, Cindy Bass Searfoss of Caldwell Banker Kane is for you. Ask her about the village at Creekside, all of her listings in my hometown of Spartanburg, South Carolina, right there on Daniel Morgan Avenue, married to a lifelong Gamecock fan. And many of our listeners have already bought homes from her and been 100% satisfied with the detail and care she uses. Cindy Searfoss, 864-414-5271, Caldwell Banker Kane in the upstate for your real estate needs.
This is Braylon Wimmer, South Carolina Gamecock Baseball, and you are listening to Inside the Gamecocks, the show with JC and Phil. Go Cops!
Welcome back to Inside the Gamecocks, the show. That music, of course, means that it's Wednesday. Not to throw y'all off for the past couple of days. And Jamie Bradford is back in the chair, whereas he is a glutton for punishment, has agreed to come back and do another hour with us this week. So, Jamie, hey, welcome back.
Well, thank you. It is nice to be on this very highly rated television/radio show with Phil and a newly defined and healthy JC Sherbert.
That's right. Who I
absolutely
feel like we're about to hop in a submarine and go explore the bottom of the ocean with the beanie.
Is that a Life Aquatic reference?
Yes.
Now
I call you Sherbsy.
Sure. I kind of look like I kind of can feel it. I'm like, well, you look at the bottom of the ocean. Was the ocean is? I thought that movie was terrible, and literally my ex-wife hated it so bad. And we normally like the movies we went and saw, but we just went and saw it. And Steve Zissou, because I don't like that director. I didn't like the Royal Tenenbaums either.
Wes Anderson fan, really?
I'm not a guy. I don't like the way the deadpan dialogue. I just think it's not funny. But midway through that, it was so bad, and I looked at the expression on her face, and it was so sour that I immediately laughed my ass off for the rest of the movie, just at her and her reaction, because it was, to me, it was that bad. I mean, and that, I know people swear by those movies, and Phil, but I just, I mean, I don't know. I just never, I was just like, God, what? What if we did the whole show that way? Hello, how are you? I'm doing fine. You know, anyway, but yeah, but I do kind of look like I'm about like maybe the guy from Jaws. Mike Morgan loves Jaws.
We're gonna need a bigger boat. Yeah,
a big boat. Yeah, I love Jaws.
Anyway, so Jamie, be back in the saddle again today, but. A big bunch of news last night, or I guess a big piece of news and a big happening on the hardwood. Start with the basketball game. I've said all day. I think anytime you play in this league and you win at Rupp, it's special. And so there you go. Well, your thoughts?
Well, you know, before hoops, first of all, the return is the big story for me today. The return of Eric Church to Charleston, South Carolina on June 30th. As I got my email at 7:00 this morning, long before the public knew he was coming, we are already in line for church choir pit tickets, and he's only going to be 25 minutes from my house, but that is 25 minutes too far to drive. So I've already booked a hotel right next to the stadium.
Don't worry about Uber getting home, right? Yeah.
Is he going to be at Johnson Haygood or is it at North Charleston Coliseum? Or?
No, he's going to be at Credit One Stadium on Daniel Island, where they're booking everybody. I mean, everybody's. Elton John just played there.
Wow.
So they, it's June 30th, and anybody in the Low Country, you can get your tickets after people like me, of course, decade-long church choir members. The rest of you, the hell with you. If you get a ticket, great. If not, you should have been in the church choir.
Should have been there. Yeah, that's right.
Like the Gamecock Club. That was huge, man. Wow. I'll tell you. All right. So I'm just going to be fully honest and transparent. I was so disinterested in what was going to happen in that game last night after the 43-point drubbing by Tennessee that I decided, all right, kids, let's watch Lyle Crocodile for the 16th time on Amazon Prime. And so we were watching that, and it was bedtime for them about 8:00. And so I got up to put them in bed, and I checked the score, and I said, what in the – so I kind of rushed him in there. Dad, will you lay down with me tonight? No, go to bed. So I came back and watched the rest of the game, and it was what a win. I mean, anytime you can go to Rupp Arena where they had won 28 in a row, which was the second longest home winning streak in the country, which wasn't even close to the first, by the way. Gonzaga holds that. They won 75 straight at home. But there have been 21 straight wins at Rupp. So it doesn't happen often there, regardless of what type of team Kentucky rolls out on the floor. There's always some magic to go around up there. And last night, Carolina, let it toe to toe. They never gave up the lead. They responded when the Wildcats would make a big play, and they got it down within 3 with a few minutes to go. And then, sure enough, you come down the floor, you hit a shot. Gigi hits a big 3. And guys, I mean, we've only done this now 3 times up there under Darren Horn in 2009 and under Coach Fogler in 97. And of those 3 wins. Most of the time we go up there, you get the crap kicked out of you, and it didn't happen.
Fair.
And of those, when you think about those 3 wins, there was always you have to have your stars be your stars in Rupp, or you don't win the game. And you go back to 97, and BJ and Larry and Melvin Watson that night. I think they combined for like 50 points. I remember BJ had 22, and he kept going to the free throw line late in the game. And so they won that one. Of course, Kentucky ended up making it to the national championship that year and got beat by Arizona and Lute Olson. But so you think about those big 3, and those were the big 3 during that time when Carolina was pretty darn good. And then you think about the 2009 game, and everybody remembers Devin Downey's shot, and everybody talks about that was Devin Downey's game. But might I remind everybody, Zam Frederick outscored Devin. Zam Frederick had 24 in that game. And so you had 47 between Zam and Devin, and they go up there and win the game. Kentucky missed the tournament that year, if I remember correctly, and they fired Gillespie. And then last night you had Michi Johnson, who was just out of control. He fired up one that he missed literally from almost the half-court line. I thought, man, this guy's really feeling it. I don't know that I like it, but he hit most of the ones he threw up, and GG was was really, really good. If you think about this, he's 18. Okay, Carolina gets beat by 43 at home to Tennessee on Saturday. He gets shut out. Worst game of his career, probably of his life. And he turns around, goes into Rupp Arena, and hangs 16 on the board and played really, really, really good basketball. Wow. I mean, that as impressive as Michi was, to think about a kid who just got really the first punch in the mouth of his whole life as a basketball player, especially at this level. I mean, he didn't know what the hell to do in the Tennessee game. He was totally lost. And Lamont gets him going, and he goes up there and hangs 16 on the board, and Carolina wins. So there's a lot of good in that game, guys. And, we'll see what happens moving forward. I mean, you got a 3-game homestand coming up, right? And has anybody paid attention to who these 3 teams are? Does everybody know what it looks like? No. Well, all right.
Just to be honest, no.
Yeah. Okay.
Right. Yeah.
You got A&M, who Carolina's beaten 6 straight times coming up this weekend. You got Ole Miss, who's 0-4 in the league. And then, yes, you do have Auburn, and we all know how difficult that's going to be. They had Auburn on the ropes last year and just couldn't get it done. After that, you go to Florida. You go to Georgia. Florida's struggling this year. And then you've beaten Georgia 11 straight games. Now, they've got a little bit of a revival going on under Mike White. But there's opportunity. Now, I'm not saying this like, oh, guys, they can make the tournament. They don't have a prayer of making any tournament right now, okay? If there's a conversation to be had about that sometime in early March, oh, my God, it'd be the turnaround of the century. But that's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about building a program. And this thing looked absolutely awful 24 hours ago at this point in time. Phil, you and I were like, God, do we even want to talk about this? We had a guy on the show yesterday that texted us and said, say a prayer. I'm going to go to the game tonight. We're like, we'll put you at the top of the list.
Joey Sox went like a champion.
Sox. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, I mean, this is about rebuilding your program. You broke it down totally, and now you're trying to build it back up. And they've got a few opportunities coming up where maybe they can start to capitalize on it and, turn into a basketball team. They looked like one last night finally.
Yeah, I think
it was a long answer.
No, in the interest of full disclosure, I was like you. I didn't turn it on. I got the Spencer Rattler news, and I was like, yay. And then I got a text from my friend Margot, and she was like, WTF. And I was like, maybe that was before Rattler announced. I was worried that, like, oh, this is bad football news. It's just what I need. I can't even see straight. And I looked, and it was like Carolina 33, Kentucky 21, and I was like, wow. And I'm like, well, the minute I turn it on, Kentucky's going to go on like a 25-0 run, so I'll sit this one out. And then I think it was 42-32, and I finally turned it back on. I was like, man, it's 10 minutes to go in the game. There must be something crazy. How many players is Kentucky missing? I had all these questions, but
Not much.
Popped it over, man, and boy. A heck of a game and a heck of a win. Like I said, it's special when you play in this league anytime you beat Kentucky at Rupp or anytime you beat them at all. But Carolina's beaten them several times through the years in Columbia, but at Rupp, it's been tough sledding. And to break a long home winning streak that they had, I mean, it's like winning at Cameron Indoor if you're in the ACC or the Dean Dome, which I think Clemson finally won there, didn't they, during the pandemic? Finally?
Yeah, I think they cracked it finally.
They finally cracked that.
Mm-hmm.
So anyway, hey, and look, another thing about this basketball team too, guys, they did beat Clemson, and Clemson's actually playing really well on the hardwood right now. I think they're undefeated in the ACC, or maybe they've lost one. So that's the deal. And you're right, there are some manageable teams, and I also will say this, and we'll wrap up hoops here and get a break. I think when you play Tennessee, any team Rick Barnes coaches, right? If you're young, inexperienced, you haven't gelled, you got a bunch of guys that are, playing hard, but if they haven't faced that kind of defensive team, there's a chance that what happened could happen to anybody because they are just in your jock. Even when they don't have elite players, like I think they do this year, a Rick Barnes coach team is going to defend the you-know-what out of you. If you're not used to that, which I doubt. I don't think anybody in AAU ball was guarding G.G. Jackson like Tennessee guarded him, right?
Oh, no.
It could happen like that. So, hey, flush that, celebrate the win at Rupp, get some confidence going, and if Michi and Gigi play well, I think Carolina can hang in. I mean, and if you think about this too, and then one more point. I lied. I have one more point. All right, so take the Tennessee game out of it, right? So lately, just like recently, since the East Carolina loss, which I thought was embarrassing, Carolina beat a pretty good Western Kentucky team at home. They beat Eastern Michigan, who has maybe a lottery pick on their team this year, and that's about it. They went to overtime, lost to Vandy on the road. That's not an easy place to play. They got slaughtered by Tennessee. They came back and won it up. So if you look at the last 5 games, you're an overtime loss at Vanderbilt for being 4-1 and 2-1 in the league. So I don't know. What does that mean? I'm not sure, because there are some ugly losses. But we'll see kind of how it goes. And you're right. A&M, Mississippi, Auburn, at Florida, at Georgia, Mississippi State's coming in. I mean, it's you don't really start hitting it again until Arkansas and Missouri back to back in February. So. And I think the idea of, Jamie, as you pointed out, is just to win, have as many good moments, and win as many as you can, and hey, see where the chips fall, and then use that to kind of build some momentum.
Yeah, there's a lot of guys that we all know that they're recruiting, and I don't know how it's going to work out, but they fired a coach and hired a new coach to rebuild the program, so you got to start somewhere. Literally no better place to start in the SEC than in Rupp Arena. And I'll be interested to see if they decide to keep Josh Gray in the starting lineup as well. I understand why he finally got the start last night. He was better to match up with Sheboy and Kentucky and kind of how they play. He needs to play. Like Josh Gray's biggest thing is he has got to keep playing. He's got everything you dream of when you look at a big man. He just has to continue to improve, and he can't improve unless he plays. And the more he played under Frank Martin, he continued to get better. He hasn't played that much this year. He hasn't been starting. I'm not sure why. I'm not the coach, so I'm not going to question it. But I hope he stays in the lineup and keeps playing. So if you can get him going, you brought in Michi Johnson to run the point, and if he can not turn the basketball over and shoot it the way that he's capable of shooting it, that takes a lot of pressure off of G.G. Jackson, man. And he can just kind of grow up instead of having to worry about, running this team up and down the floor and trying to be the difference maker every time. So good things happen like that. We'll see how it all works out. And we didn't even mention Chico Carter, a guy who's literally put them on their back so much this year. And last night he only fired up 4 shots. It looked like Kentucky was just intent on making sure that they took him out of the games. He was shooting above 50% from beyond 3-point range. Well, in lieu of that, they allowed Michi Johnson to fire up a bunch of them, and 6 of those that left his hand went through the net. So, it was a good night. It was just a good night for South Carolina, and we'll see what happens on Saturday.
Yeah, Hayden Brown fouled out, but I thought he hustled. And that's what they need him to do, is get after loose balls, scrap. And I'm with you completely. I've always been a Josh Gray guy because I think he's got some things you can't coach. And I think he's a lot better than Bosman's Verdunk. That's just, a fact. So I love the way the minutes were split up last night. Daniel Hankins Sanford, who's a freshman, nice 3, played 11 minutes. Jacoby Wright had some good moments. So, I think we'll see what
they
happens.
like him, and they like the Davis kid too. They like both of those
Zach
guys.
Davis,
yeah, those young guys they like, and I get Verdonk, playing. Lamont wanted to go with somebody who understands basketball a little bit more, but Josh Gray seems to be the guy with the higher ceiling, at least as we understand it. So, we'll kind of see how it all works out, no doubt. But yeah, it was really, really, really fun to watch them actually play basketball last night. They actually seemed to have an offensive system in place, and they kind of had an idea of what they're going to go do out there, and they just kind of continued to stick with it. They hit free throws. I mean, yeah, kind of how you play basketball.
Yeah, that's a crazy place to put it all together, but we'll take it.
Yeah, no doubt.
All right, we're going to have our first break of the second hour. More with Jamie Bradford after this on the show. Hey, man, are you sick and tired of your business computer guy?
Yes, he takes forever to call me back and doesn't always respond to the requests.
Yeah, same here. I'm paying him good money. I constantly have issues, and I'm worried he's not backing up my network and securing it properly.
Oh, I feel that, man. My head hurts, but I have a good lead on a good idea. I'm calling your boy Matthew Odom today from Heritage Digital. Heritage Digital is an IT firm that specializes in making sure your IT network runs like a dream. If you have 1 or 500 employees, it doesn't matter. They do it all for one monthly fee and have clients from South Carolina all the way to California.
Yeah, I heard that monthly fee's low too, so I don't know why I didn't even think of that. Do you have 843-699-1001 as Matt's contact number?
Yeah, man, I sure do that. Or you can go to heritagedigital.com.
Man, I hear they do a no-cost assessment. Boy, this will help me.
Yeah, I bet.
I'm getting on that and encouraging everyone else to do the same. Heritage Digital, 843-699-1001 or heritagedigital.com, a proud sponsor of Inside the Gamecocks, the show.
You can't handle the truth.
Gamecock Nation, do you need a place to stay for the big game? Many hotel booking engines keep all the commissions, but at Fan Plans, you support Inside the Gamecocks, still earn your hotel loyalty points, and you receive an email with direct confirmation from the hotel. Whether you are visiting Columbia to cheer on Carolina or hitting the road to follow the team, get in the stands with Fan Plans.
Yep, time to get back to the show. Shoot. All right, my man.
Welcome back to Inside the Gamecocks, the show. The show is presented to you by Express Owners in Columbia. Give John Barber a call, 803-446-4662, to discuss a potential backyard retreat for your home. And you do mention that you heard it here. It'll give you $500 off your first project. And so, guys, we are back. What a day yesterday, as we said. I don't think, you can overstate the importance of what happened on the football side of things as well as basketball, because while we hope it's not a fluke, it may very well be. Seeing how we played up to thus far.
Well, I mean, look, so they beat Clemson, they won at Rupp, and they won at Georgetown.
Well, what that is it's a team that's very young. And it's a team with a lot of kids have never played before, with a coach who's never coached them. That's what it is. That's what that is.
And not a lot of depth either. And
you get a mixed bag like this when you got a whole group of people that just don't understand each other.
Yeah,
that's what happens.
And maybe that game will help them gel. All right, Kreger in the Nana Sports chat box says Montague Rames and Desmond Umi is Zulu. Look like they need about 20 pounds before they're ready. Maybe
they'll get that in about a month.
Quickly. Yeah, I mean that's what I said
about
that. Enrolling early, and Rames in particular. I think talking to somebody the other day, they think he can be at 255 freshman year. And Desmond, obviously is a little bit thinner build, but Desmond got a lot better this season. So I think if you're talking about those guys as far as starters, it's really dicey. If you're talking about them as backups or top reserves, obviously they're both talented 4-star guys who are only going to get better the more they play, unless they're bust, which is always possible. But I just doubted on those two. So that's, that's kind of one of those things. Lots of schools recruit 4-star guys that have to step in and play at that position. So we'll see what happens there. All right, Spencer Rattler's. So the other comeback, Jamie, Rattler and Juice Wells. I know you guys probably talked about Juice yesterday, and I think it was pretty much the writing was on the wall that Rattler would be back. I think you and I both have talked to people that have felt like Juice and Spencer were coming back, but just kind of with the way things go, college football these days, you're not really sure until you're sure. I think there are a lot of Gamecock fans that almost breathed a sigh of relief, but that were rejoicing when Rattler put that tweet out at 8:03 last night.
Oh.
So I wonder if that was intentional. 8:03, staying in the 8:03, right?
Interesting. Huh.
So yeah.
Yeah.
But, your thoughts about that?
It's okay. I mean, they probably could have. What do you want me to say?
It's nice to have some continuity with a returning quarterback.
Look, I think they probably could have gone to the portal and found somebody that they liked a little more. Maybe somebody that sat for 3 or 4 years is just happy to be there. Dude. I mean, I think in 2023, when you look around the league, I mean, I like the kid at Tennessee, no doubt. I like the Daniels kid at LSU. We haven't seen much of Carson Beck yet at Georgia. I mean, there's always going to be a lot of great quarterbacks in this league. Will Rogers returns to Mississippi State, but you can call me what you want. I think he's the best quarterback in the league. I think this kid, it clicked. And he's one of those type of people when it does, he's only got one way to go. And you add in a quarterback's coach and an offensive coordinator and Coach Loggins that understands, what he's going through now. They're going to basically try to keep a lot of the same concepts, is my understanding, but they're going to dumb it down and make this thing more of a college style, pro style system. And then you also have that same guy is able to kind of guide you through the NFL waters. And so, and you return, one of the best wide receivers in the conference, in the country, probably, in Juice Wells. So I think they have I really do. I mean, I like all these other guys, and we'll have to see what happens. It's January, but if you ask me today, pick a quarterback in the league and he's your starter day one, I want Spencer Rattler. There's a reason why everybody wanted Spencer Rattler, and we've got him again in year 2.
Absolutely. And then the arm, there's a lot of players that can play, right? And a lot of good quarterbacks, and maybe some that have been more productive than him, but his arm talent, watch some of the throws he made against Tennessee, Clemson, even Notre Dame when he sprinted out and hit Leggett on the touchdown. I mean, those are not throws everyone can make, right?
No.
Does that make sense?
Those aren't throws, JC. Those aren't throws that like most make. I mean, Brady can't make some of those throws. I mean, his arm talent is as good as you're going to find. I mean, he's got the Brett Favre-ish in him when it comes to arm talent. If he gets the system down, which you're adding. So he spent all of the winter last year, all the spring, all the summer, learning this new system under Coach Satterfield, learning his teammates, developing relationships both on and off the field. Well, he's already done that now. I mean, yeah, there's going to be some new guys that come in, but this is his team. Like he's not relearning the South Carolina way of doing things. You're not just totally tossing in a new offense here. Like this is all stuff he's done. Now it's just improve. I mean, that's dangerous for a guy like Spencer Rattler. If you protect him, which I think they're going to be able to protect him, watch out. I mean, that opening weekend with Drake May and Rattler and Daniels and the Hunter kid from Florida State, that's a special weekend in quarterback matchups. I really cannot wait.
I agree. I think that is it's going to be something else there. 2 ACC, SEC neutral site games. I'm hoping maybe the Gamecocks and Heels get a better kickoff time than hope it's not a nooner. Hope it's not a 2:30-ish. Kind of hoping it's maybe at night up there in Charlotte. And I'm kind of hoping Gamecock fans get over. All right, so this is the last time there's a game scheduled during the regular season in Charlotte for forever. For right now, there's nothing else scheduled in Charlotte, so no more of this. Oh, I don't want to go to Charlotte, because it's going to be a heck of a quarterback battle, and one of the games people are going to be talking about opening weekend next weekend because of Drake May and Spencer Rattler. Sonder asks a question here, and I'm going to get your point on this. Does anyone else find it interesting Loggins hadn't made any staff changes? Is this a product of prior contracts and obligations, or is he truly happy with the staff? I find it strange he didn't bring in an O-line coach, considering it would have been a natural time for a change, despite the success Teasley had. I'll just say this. I don't know if you're going to find a great one that's as good as Lonnie. I mean, people don't understand at HBCU level, there's so many great coaches, and for whatever reason, they never get out of that level of football. It's probably because there's not a lot of head coaches that go up the ladder from there. But you'll find out when you watch Deion Sanders in Colorado win games how good of coaches there are at that level. And I thought Lonnie got the offensive line better. All these big-time recruits want to play for him. I think he's a very good fundamental teacher. So I just don't know that you find anybody new that's as good. As far as the rest of the staff goes, and I think this is one of those leftover kind of Spurrier things, maybe a little Muschamp, because Mike Bobo did bring Joe Cox in, but Spurrier didn't care. I mean, he cared, but he didn't until the end when he didn't let Hoke bring anybody. But everybody else on defense, he'd be like, oh, shoot, you can just hire 2 or 3 guys and do whatever. That's because that's a different setup than you have normally. Normally, your head coach picks his whole staff. You don't see, I mean, Wes Godwin, all the internal promotions at Clemson haven't been able to pick their own guys. Same's true at Alabama. Nick Saban picks his staff. Will Muschamp, when he was here, picked his staff. So I didn't find that interesting at all. In fact, I pretty much felt Lonnie Teasley would get the job after those last 2 regular season games. Your thought, Jamie?
Yeah, I'm not sure what change would be necessary there. Internally, I'm assuming, JC, your intel is about as good as mine. I mean, internally, they're thrilled with what Lonnie Teasley was able to do with the offensive line from a coaching standpoint. Externally, I think if we all, just kind of pay attention, take a close look at it, we can all see the impact he's having from a recruiting standpoint. I mean, the 2 best linemen in the state of South Carolina and 2 of the best linemen in the entire country are on the verge of committing to the University of South Carolina Gamecocks. And then not to mention the guys that have already just signed, like Big Tree and Marquis Anderson and others. So, and all these guys are really ecstatic with your offensive line coach. I think sometimes as fans, and this is, I'm not sure, I don't remember who you said asked the question. This is not at all directed to that individual at all. I'm just saying in general, I think sometimes as fans, we get caught up in this video game world. Fire this guy and let's restart our dynasty and let's rename this player and update his speed and make him our best player and yada, yada, yada. It's not how it works at all. And social media and message boards and all these things that have provided all of this information and all of this quote unquote transparency over the years have made that worse. We're all very judgmental based on things that sometimes just really aren't realistic. And we got to kind of backtrack a little bit and remember that there are coaches involved that they might actually know a little bit more than we do. And so I'm gonna kind of side with Coach Beamer here because they're recruiting outstanding. Thought the offensive line did as the season went on. It got better. I'll never say that it was really good. I don't think we can all agree on that, right? Like I don't think this is one of the best offensive lines that South Carolina's put on the field in a while. I think that they need to continue to just get more talent. But they certainly got better. And, based on what I know, I think Lonnie Teasley should be the offensive line coach. But some people don't agree.
Yeah,
but he is.
I was going to say it's probably one of those aspects of the Dowell Loggins hire that we don't think that actually was an advantage because he's not a college guy. He's not going to try to push to bring his own people in and things like that. And then you put that with trying to maintain the consistency in the recruiting aspect of it because when you look at this class, it's heavy on offensive line talent, and I don't know if you keep it all together if he brings in some new face regardless of his prowess as a recruit.
Yeah,
absolutely. I'm with you there.
And this is kind of the same conversation too, and I'm glad you're back, JC, because I'd rather you be able to answer this. I did my best with it a couple of days ago, but I think people are still trying to find the why in Montario Hardesty with why he's still on staff. And, again, I'm not Shane Beamer, so I don't actually know the answer to the question. What I do know is that I know somebody pretty good inside that football program who's much more qualified than I would ever dream of being to judge any coach, especially a running backs coach, who is like, dude, this cat he's legit. And then I know a couple of 5A coaches in South Carolina who say he's their favorite recruiter when they walk through the door. So that's what I have to base my information on, JC. And then you look on the field the last couple of years that he's coached at Carolina, and you see, when Kevin Harris was healthy, he was really good. Zaquandre White had a breakout year last year, and there's a reason he went to the NFL. I mean, Marshawn, when he was healthy, he was good. I think he got Jaheim Bell ready to be a running back. I mean, we didn't have one, and that's who they needed to play back there because Christian Beal-Smith wasn't healthy. So, I think that, when you get out of the video game mindset a little bit and you kind of let's look at the facts here. And I'm very blessed because I get a little bit of interesting additional information. JC, you get much more than I do. That's why I'm kind of passing the torch to you on this. But you get these questions about these coaches. Well, I mean, so far, all the information I have isn't any reason to just go fire a guy. So, what, I guess now that you're back, what say you for something like that, like a Hardesty? I know that there were rumors that he might not return and this, that, and the other, and I heard him too. But since then, all the information I have leads me to believe that there was really no reason for him to go anywhere.
Yeah, I think that's it too. And I'm going to tell you this right now. And this is, I've seen this work both ways. When coaches want to make changes, not for the sake of making changes, but it's kind of could be borderline. You could upgrade your staff doing this, that, or the other. And there's two schools of thought, and I've seen it blow up in people's face. I mean, Tommy Bowden in 2003 was about to get fired, and he beats Florida State, and he beats the tar out of Carolina, and he beats Tennessee in the Peach Bowl, and they finished 9-4, which is right now, Clemson probably fire people if they went 9-4. But they went 9-4, and that was a huge deal because – yes, they were in the Peach Bowl yet again, but things are starting to click. Well, Brad Scott called the ball plays down the stretch. And I think we can all agree, regardless of how you feel about Brad Scott, he's a good play caller, really good play caller. I mean, in 2008, when Dabo took took over, Brad took over that offense for a little while with Napier, and they did pretty well. Well, then Tommy, I'm not happy with 9 wins, so he switches to Mike O'Kane, which is more of a pro-style guy, doesn't really have a good play caller, good coach, Mike O'Kane, but not Clemson grad, but not – I would never compare him to Brad Scott. Well, then the next year they struggled mightily on offense and went 6-5.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that set them up for disaster because then they went and hired Rob Spence, who was an abject failure at Clemson and really probably caused Bowden to get fired. So sometimes you got to be careful what you wish for. And I also think that in this day and age, when you're talking about culture and you're talking about, always having to recruit your players, your own players, because of what's out there, you're very hesitant unless it's absolutely necessary to upset the apple cart because you've preached team and you've preached family. And so you just go fire a guy just to fire him. And you laid out a pretty good case for him not being fired. That can upset things a bit. And not only did I get fired, he got a contract extension. And I think, if Beamer decides that's what he wants to do with his running backs coach, that's fine with me. I've heard mixed things, but like you did toward the middle to end of this year, the narrative inside kind of changed on him a little bit. And I think, he's a running backs coach that played running back, but also before he got to Carolina, just like Clayton White had never coached linebackers, Monterey Hardesty's never coached running backs. His position, he's played it, but hadn't coached it. And there have been some productive backs. So, I don't know. I'll say this to finish up. This is the point I was trying to make. Shane Beamer's not going to be one of those coaches that makes changes just to make changes. There's going to have to be a daggum good reason for him. He's not one that goes and hunts upgrades. He's one that's like, here's our guys, here's what we're going to do. We're going to do it this way. And I think he, quite frankly, he gets that from his dad. Because I think that was kind of what they did at Virginia Tech. They had some guys that stayed there for 20 years. And it worked out. So,
well, and I mean, the same sentence, though. I mean, if he's got a guy who isn't worth a damn, he ain't gonna keep him around either. I mean, you can't, not in today's world, because this isn't yesterday's college football. Yesterday's college football gave you 5 or 6 years to get a program turned around. Today's gives you 3.
Sure.
because of the transfer portal and things like that. I think too, and my guys here. One day I got to get up with these guys, Craig and Clint and all them.
Yeah.
Craig, he said people want to see Hardesty get kids in here, and I understand that. That's true. But on that note, like JC, you know more about this than I do. South Carolina's recruiting approach under Shane is a little bit different than how people think it is. It is, yes, you have a territory, and yes, you are a lead recruiter, but it is very much a collective effort in that building to sign kids. If they feel like there is some type of trait that another coach has that somebody needs to be around. I mean, Jimmy Lindsay is one of the main recruiters for the lineman out of the Thompson kid, the lineman who's the 24 kid. Okay. Mm-hmm. He ain't gonna coach him. He's a defensive line coach. So there is a collective effort in that building. We have to remember that. Now, I can't sit here and tell you. I have no idea. Shane never calls me and asks me to come into the recruiting room and look up on the board so I can know what's going on and turn around and talk about it in front of the camera. But I do know that they all work together in there. There's a reason he got an extension. So clearly with the on-field stuff, and I'm sure that there's some recruiting stuff, you want to make sure that whatever prospects really like Montario Hardesty understand he's going to be around here for a little while, not just one more year and wondering what in the world's going on. And with that, if you actually go look at recruits that are like, one of the things that I think has kind of bothered me, Justin Stepp has missed a few wide receivers since he's been at South Carolina, but people take quickly to the internet and blame it on Marcus Satterfield's system. I hadn't heard anybody do that to Montario Hardesty to defend him yet. So why not? I mean, Justin Stepp actually is credited with one recruit right now. It's Marquis Anderson. Okay, because that's his territory. But we all know damn well he's been involved with a bunch of them. Okay, so, I'm going to defend him a little bit here because I'm not saying that everything I'm saying is right or should be agreed with. Like, that's the purpose of having the conversation. But what I'm getting at is there's a lot that we don't know, we don't see, and we don't understand. And so far, since Shane Beamer's been in South Carolina, things have kind of gotten a little bit better, a lot quicker than people thought they would. So until, it proves me wrong, at least, I'm going to kind of stay in that camp. And he did sign the Braswell kid, so we'll give him that.
Yeah, and I'll say it's the days.
Which, by the way, it's not in his territory. His territory is down here in the Low Country.
Right, yeah. The days of having – all right, so what they do, a quick recruiting process here right now. Okay, so it used to be like during the Spurrier era, and this changed a bit under Muschamp because, quite frankly, if it wasn't Bobby Bentley, and then when Thomas Brown was at South Carolina, then when Des Kitchings was at South Carolina, those guys kind of did things on their own, and Wolford on the offensive line. Your best recruiter on Will Muschamp's staff was Will Muschamp. I mean, bottom line. I mean,
white
Will
gloves
was involved. People don't catch up popsicle to an Eskimo,
white
whatever
glove.
he's doing. Shane and those guys do it even different, a lot different. In other words, like Pete Limbo has, and I think maybe on our website we need to do a better job of adding secondary and area recruiters. Like, Pete Limbo has the Northeast or the DMV, so to speak, right? Well, Big Tree, though, his recruiter was really, at the end of the day, Lonnie Teasley. Desmond Umeazulu, his recruiter at the end of the day was Sterling Lucas. Nick Harbor's recruiters are Johnny Holstaff, because everybody's involved. Shane Beamer's involved with a lot of these guys. So your days of having the star area recruiter that just goes and your running backs coach signs 10 guys from 5 different positions, that's not how they do it at South Carolina. I mean, Montario Hardesty, all right, so he's got the Low Country. We're going to give him credit for Cam Pringle.
Right. That's my point.
That's his area. But no, it's going to be Lonnie Teasley and everybody else. And they do so much team recruiting. You almost don't assign the area. The area guy's responsible for going and finding guys and saying, hey, look at the film. Do you like him? And then normally the position coach at South Carolina takes the lead and goes from there.
And the area coach, JC, is especially under Beamer, is responsible for developing relationships in every school in his area, especially like what not just the state, right? But they consider Charlotte, Atlanta, Jacksonville, like they consider that South Carolina, Savannah, right? So it's their job not just to like it's not like Montero Hardesty's the only cat you're going to talk to in the Low Country. His job is to develop the relationship between the University of South Carolina and whatever high school is Wando or Bishop, whatever he's walking into, right? And then from there, if you're recruiting a kid, they'll put together the game plan to go get that kid.
Oh, definitely. Yeah. And that's what they do. And it's more of a team thing as well. But yeah. And somebody in the chat box asked about Landon Sampson. That was Justin Stepp. Just about anybody in the state of Texas.
Right.
Here's another thing. Like Peyton Williams came from Texas. Justin Stepp is his area recruiter because he has, I think, just about the whole state. But Torian Gray got that done. Right. So we're kind of just with everything else in the sport, we're kind of in like a new territory where you kind of step back and judge it differently than maybe you once did. Now, have I never heard from anyone on the inside that Montero Hardesty needs to recruit better and land some guys?
Sure.
I'm not going to say I've never heard that. I'm not going to say that wasn't a legit criticism, but like I said, the narrative kind of changed a little bit this year. Some people grow into jobs, and if Beamer wants to keep him, Beamer wants to keep him. I'm going to end up with this. We'll get to our final break. Again, Shane Beamer is not going to be like other coaches that have been here. He is going to err on the side of sticking with his guys and consistency. And look, I've seen some coaches get in trouble for that, but I've also seen a lot of coaches that they do it, and all of a sudden you're sitting in year 5 and 6 and you're rolling, and your entire staff's full of rock stars. And maybe in year 2 you thought this guy sucked or that guy sucked. And there's so much information out there, and assistant coaches are under such a bigger spotlight than they used to be. That I get it, but we'll see how it goes. I mean, I know that some had dreams of another running backs coach and bringing another running back in or whatever, but I just after checking on that inside, everybody inside the program was like, it's never going to happen. It was this pipe dream, whatever. We didn't anything about it, so that's just kind of how it went. All right, final break. Inside the Gamecocks show to wrap it up on a Wednesday after those messages.
If you're looking to sell or buy multifamily property right here in South Carolina, the Burgesson team of RE/MAX at the Lake can help you get to closing fast and easy. Adam and Derek Burgesson both are very proud Gamecocks and are more than happy to assist you with any of your commercial real estate needs all across the state. You can email Adam at aburgesson@remax.net. That's ABERGESON at remax.net to get your next deal underway. The Burgesson team, proud sponsors of Inside the Gamecocks.
I love the smell of napalm in the morning.
What's up, Gamecock fans? This is Pitcher Noah Hall. If you want some delicious food for your event, I suggest visiting nanasporch.com today to find out what they all have to offer. It's really good Southern cuisine based out of Charlotte, my hometown. I hope you guys go check it out. Go Cox and go Nanas.
I've been expecting you, Mr. Powers.
Sometime in the near future, there's a good chance I'll move back to my home area of the upstate of South Carolina. And I'm going to tell you right now, there's nobody I would use to help me find a new home except Cindy Bass Searfoss of Caldwell Banker Kane, located in my hometown of Spartanburg, Daniel Morgan Avenue, married to a diehard Gamecock. 864-414-5271. Give Cindy a call. 864-414-5271. A proud sponsor of Inside the Gamecocks, the show.
Family vacations, a new car, a new boat, all cost money, but you don't necessarily have to make more to afford any of that if you can save cash that's flying out the window now. iHelp Consulting can help you finally get the kids to Disney World, upgrade the minivan, or drop that new boat in the water next summer. Let Daniel and iHelp Consulting consult with you. No fees, just savings. You pay them a percentage of those savings. Save on essential services, credit card fees, you name it, let them find it. These folks are incredible. iHelpConsulting.com. How can I help you?
Hey, Mo Cowboy here from the Carolina Gamecocks. You're listening to Inside the Gamecocks, the show with JC and Phil.
Welcome back to Inside the Gamecocks, the show brought to you by Express Sunrooms in Columbia. Give them a call, talk about a potential backyard retreat for you. They cover both of the Carolinas, all the Carolinas. How many Carolinas are there? There's only 2, so they'll get you in North and South Carolina. Just get in touch with John Barber, 803-446-4662. He will direct you to the right place if you were outside of the Columbia area. I was thinking, we're having that conversation about Hardesty, I guess, specifically, and it's like a guy that is on the fringe or whatever as to whether or not you want to keep him. Obviously, fans have their own opinions, but I think it from the player perspective, guys, like this, the landscape of college football right now is the most chaotic it has ever been. I mean, you can't say that it isn't, and I think that Shane Beamer's approach and the emphasis that I feel like he places on loyalty and consistency can offer a lot, not just to the recruits themselves, but to their families, which we all know, goes a long way. The way that they go to recruit with an area recruiter, and then, of course, it's the team effort, I think allows you and facilitates you to have a better hit percentage on recruits that are outside of your immediate footprint, because there is some consistency. They don't show up here to, the university on an official visit and only know one guy. 3 or 4. Your family knows 3 or 4, just the way they do it. And as chaotic as life is when you're 16, 17, 18 years old and being drafted, not drafted, but recruited by these big time programs to come play there, seeing a familiar face, especially as we move deeper into the Beamer era where, some of these kids that are, freshmen in high school now are going to see these recruiters walk into their school, and they're going to see the same guy walk into their school for 3 years, for 4 years. And it's like, wow, I think that kind of is something that goes under the radar that doesn't get talked a lot, but that ultimately will pay huge dividends moving down the road.
Yeah, no doubt.
Recruiting is about relationships, and obviously the more consistent you are with like things like showing up, the more you can build relationships. And these days too, you got to get in on them early. I have my thoughts about things like ranking kids too early, but recruiting guys you like early, fair game. And so you're right, Phil. The more consistency you have, with being around and you're there for multiple years. This guy remembers you when you were a freshman. So there's trust that gets built. And you also brought up a good point about outside the footprint, Phil. South Carolina, in the modern era of recruiting, Holt, Spurrier, Muschamp, primarily forced a 4-state recruiting team. They'd go to other states and get guys every now and then, but it was somewhat rare. This staff has not only, and they don't just like 1 year Spurrier got 4 guys out of Alabama. And he's like, well, that's just the way it happened. And then they got nobody else for a while, until they got Taylor Stallworth. And the best name change ever, Jalen Dredd. Remember that guy? Hit or miss in the Northeast, whatever. But, these guys, year after year after year, last year, Pennsylvania kids came. This year, Maryland and D.C. Last year, Delaware. Those types of things. They get guys out of Texas.
Mississippi.
And that's happening. And I don't think that – I think if you want that to not only continue, like you mentioned, Phil, but build – then it's a good thing to remain consistent. Now and there's a difference between, you need to get rid of a guy because he's just dead weight and, can't coach a lick and can't recruit. That's not what I'm saying, but, I don't think that, with Beamer, I don't think anybody's not pulling their weight, right, for the most part. And I think it's going to take I absolutely have to make this, because he would rather err on the side of consistency. And Phil, I think you nailed that point as to why. It gets back to recruiting and all of that good stuff, and the consistency needed to build the relationships you need to recruit at a high level.
Well, and it's an important time too, guys, because there's a chink in the armor in the upstate right now. You know, that for first time in a while, this door is wedged open to kind of reclaim yourself in the state of South Carolina, which they have been doing over the last year. I mean, Will signed guys in South Carolina, no doubt. I mean, he signed a bunch of talented guys in the state of South Carolina. No question about that. Carolina, generally, in order to be really good and be better than the team in the upstate, you almost have to sign every one of them. And that's what happened under Steve. I mean, that's what they did. They signed them all. And that's kind of back where they are again. They're signing them all again. And so, you know, you can't play the revolving door thing right now. Now it's not at the expense of your program. If you feel like you've got the right guy in place, you know, and maybe you just need to make an adjustment or two with him to make him better in whatever area that is, then you do it. But you keep the train on the tracks, because you got a chance right now we asked Brad Crawford yesterday, right, Phil? Mm-hmm. How close, in your opinion, you follow all the national stuff, how close is it? Carolina just beat them finally. And he said, I think it's pretty close. All right, so, and he's not the only one. There's a lot of people out there that tend to agree with that. Like, Clemson, they're at least right now, don't show that they are what they were. Carolina is showing that they could be kind of back in the saddle a little bit. And so you're going to want to keep that consistent. You got a national champion back to back next to you. You know, you can't. I mean, you're not falling behind. You're always going to be playing catch up over there. You know, you don't know what's going to happen in North Carolina. Mac Brown is not going to be there much longer, guys. It's not going to happen. Okay, and you want to make sure that you're able to stay on top of that. So for the immediate area that they recruit in right now, if you can win and you feel like you got a guy who's good enough and you just got to kind of get him through some things, to your point, both of you, keep it consistent and rewrap your arms around this state. They're doing it.
Yeah, and then they're not only getting guys that are the highly rated, but they're finding guys like Evan Warray and DQ Smith. That's half the battle in South Carolina, and you see it sometimes when guys leave the state that don't have offers from Clemson and USC that end up going somewhere else and being all conference or in the NFL and all that. And I'll say this about South Carolina too. I think that Georgia's a really important state for the Gamecocks, right? It's always going to be. You think about two of the best players in program history are who? George Rogers and Sterling Sharp. Let's throw Connor Shaw in there too. They're all from Georgia. There are so many players in that state, and there's probably twice as many as there used to be down there, just because of the growth in Atlanta, the high school, the investment in high school football in that state. But you got to take the right guys, because you can get in trouble down there taking an overrated kid in the heartbeat. And, Carolina's not going to go head to head and beat Georgia on most players right now. But the Auburns, the Floridas, even Clemson, had Jelon Kilgore had an offer from them. Your Oklahomas, Tennessee, schools like that, the guys Kentucky gets. South Carolina, 6 prospects in the top 40 that were 4 stars or higher from the state of Georgia. And that's called getting your share. And so you start analyzing it and you go, well, good, they're getting the right guy. They're getting those right there, those J.C. Horn level prospects. Well, those J.C. Horn level prospects at times turn into top 10 draft picks, right? Because it's just Georgia can't take everybody. You hear that all the time. It's absolutely true. You look at the NFL draft every year, there's 6 guys that go first 2 rounds from the state of Georgia. Only 2 of them play for the Dogs, and it's just that good of a state. So you got that there. I think North Carolina's going to be a workaround for a while. Not just until Mac Brown leaves. I think there is a trend in that state where guys are either staying at home, going to NC State or UNC, definitely, or they're definitely going to the biggest brand they can. Even Clemson's having trouble signing guys out of North Carolina now.
Yeah.
Okay. And that's just how that state goes sometimes. So that's 2. Getting dogs out of Florida like Anthony Rose and K'Wan Banks and stuff. Perfect. So then where do you go to kind of fill out the elite portion of your class? Well, hey, DMV's starting to work that way. So I agree. I think there's a lot process-wise when you look at who they're signing and where they're signing them from that makes total sense. And then your last 3 or 4 guys spots, not out of the portal, Two may go to Texas. Two may go to Texas kids in the year you get two. The next year it may be two from Alabama. The next year it may be Mississippi or Tennessee or Virginia or something like that. And so I just really like the plan and the way they're doing it, working north-south and then finding the right guys out of some of these talent pockets that they have to, because that's the way it's been done before. And that's the way it's going to have to be moving forward. Is getting those right guys out of those key states.
Well, and I'll add this, and I know we got to go, but I'll add this, JC. You mentioned kind of the last 3 or 4, and I don't want this to come across as like, oh, well, you're the last 3 kids we signed, so y'all aren't really that good. But we're talking about the dudes. Like, where are you finding your dudes, right? That everybody knows about, that people are going to be recruiting. Yeah. Well, when you talk about the last 3 or 4, or maybe even more like the last 1 or 2. One of the big things inside that building up there, and it is a damn good thing. We've already seen it work for South Carolina, and it's about to work again once they kick off spring practice and people start to kind of hear it, is they will find the diamonds in the rough in this state that kind of mesh this thing together. They will find the kids who we're not really looking. There's no pressure. We're not looking for this kid to come right in and be, some big superstar. This is a kid who is going to be really good for our program in 2 or 3 years. And if you get really lucky, you hit on them. Well, they got really lucky because they hit on him with DQ Smith and Nicky Memori, and they're about to hit on a couple of others. And they've hit on a couple of others we just haven't seen them play yet, like Kyler Corton, for instance. So, that's part of this equation as well, is do we go take a kid who is probably in the same ballpark as a Eamon Warrior or DQ Smith, but, out of Texas, being recruited by, Baylor and Houston and whoever? Or do we take that kid right here who's being recruited by App State and East Carolina and South Carolina and whatever it is, and make him proud to play for his home state Gamecocks? And that's been a neat part to watch as well. And hopefully that continues to stay on like that.
And Josh Simon from Dalzell coming in as a tight end, and
Dalzell,
Mario Anderson, who we've all talked about here from Stratford. Yeah. 2 guys from the portal coming in. All right, we got to wrap it up. Phil, any final words?
No. Welcome back.
Any famous last words?
Famous last words. Yeah.
Jeremy did say after McLeod committed, I'd give a rundown of his recruitment because it was a roller coaster. Oh, I meant to say it was a roller coaster for you guys, but on Xavier McLeod, he committed the day after the Georgia National Championship celebration that he visited in Athens. He was the first welcome home. Remember, the first welcome home was like, I don't know who it is. Well, it was Xavier McLeod.
Yeah.
Never wavered. Scared everybody on social media to death. I mean, they were talking about visiting Miami or Florida right before signing day, and he was the first one that signed. So, there you go. It's been kind of an interesting thing there, but that's my rundown there. And yes, I think Jeff Coat is nastier than Birch right now. Will he end up being as good next year? I don't know, but I think he is nastier if that's a category you value, and it certainly is one that I do at defensive end. All right, for Phil Mullinax, Jamie Bradford, JC Sherbert, wrapping it up here on the show. Great to be back. I have a feeling tomorrow is going to be a special episode, really good. And we'll talk to you then. Be sure to check this out on podcast format too if you're missing it, because that'll return today as well. See you guys later.